Hey everybody, Devin here with Fresh Pitchfork founder. Today's video is on something I'm very passionate about, and that is exponential technologies as well as exponential entrepreneurs that are changing businesses and industries across the world. So without further ado, the way I was introduced into exponential technologies was through Peter Diamandis, as well as Ray Kurzweil. Um, I read Peter Diamandis' book Abundance, which I don't have with me now. I let somebody borrow it. The link will be in the description below if you would want to check it out on Amazon or Kindle. It is a revolutionary book in many ways. So first of all, the exponential technology right now that's currently changing industries across the world, they are as follows: network sensors, artificial intelligence, robotics, synthetic biology, infinite computing, as well as 3D printing. So these things are on an exponential curve. They get better over time. The perfect example of this is with there's 6 Ds that all of exponential technologies share, and or exponential companies share the 6 Ds that are recommended by Peter Diamandis. And I'm going to get to those in a minute. But the perfect example of an exponential technology is the digital camera. So if you're not aware, Kodak actually did create, one of their engineers did invent the digital camera right inside their own laboratories. But I believe like the first camera was like 0.01 megapixels, and they were already researching this to get that far, so they really wanted to pull the plug on it. But they didn't just early pull the plug on it. They kept on with it for a couple more years. And don't forget, Kodak was the leading industry in film supply, and they didn't realize they were creating something that was going to make them obsolete in just a few years later. And that is one of the D's, and it's the perfect example. So I'll just jump into that, and I'll get to Kodak in a second also. So network sensors, artificial intelligence, robotics, synthetic biology, 3D printing, and infinite computing. These things are definitely on an exponential curve and will be arriving sooner than later, just like the digital camera did when it was invented in the 70s or 80s. See where it is now? So the 6 Ds. Before I get into 6 Ds, there's also a couple other things besides the 6 Ds that exponential entrepreneurs really share. And one of these things is what Stephen Kotler, who's affiliated with Peter Diamandis, they refer to as the exponential psychological tools. So these things are, transformational experiences to really get into a different mind state, or what they like to call flow states. Exponential entrepreneurs also use something which is more called crowd power. They use crowdsourcing or crowdfunding or things like center prizes, or there's a lot of things involved with community building. These are very trends and characteristics of an exponential entrepreneur or company. And now to get into the 6 Ds. So just to say them real quick, and then actually I'll just go through them one by one. Digitalization. This is like the first step. This is when a product or service becomes digitalized and it becomes online. This is when it starts the exponential curve, and it will continue to grow at a mass scale. The second D is deception. This is the part with Kodak where it gets dismissed early on because they take a while to develop. Like I was saying with the camera, it was a 0.01 megapixel in its first year, and then by year 2, they didn't get very far. It was 0.02. It was actually quite far, but after another year, it was 0.04. Another year, 0.08. It was still unusable for the next decade. So Kodak was basically saying, we can't focus on our resources on this right now. We need to focus more on growing our business elsewhere. This is taking way too long. They weren't ready for an exponential technology like that to just swoop them up in such a short period of time. as you can see, when they went bankrupt back in, I think, '08. So the third D is disruption. This is when it really starts disrupting the industry with their technology or their new way of doing things. Then the next D is demonetization. And this was more explained to it demonetizes the competition. So basically with Kodak, it's making film obsolete. I was thinking at first when I heard of demonetization, they did say it was more of the money out of the equation, but I'm thinking that means things were getting more cheaper and cheaper. It's more of it's becoming more prevalent because it's already disrupted the industry and now it's demonetizing the industry. And then the next D is dematerialization. This is when like really everybody adopts this. It's mass adoption and it becomes the industry standard. There's different interpretations on this. Basically you could say, you know, a certain percentage of user base, but I know one thing that really sticks out to me is when they say, hey, when your grandma gets it, that is definitely dematerialization. So when your grandma gets Instagram, that is when it's dematerialized and it's really in its almost final stage of total disruption. So, and then the last D is democratization. So the way this was described is basically, you guys, most people don't realize now today that you're holding a supercomputer right in your hand that just 50 years ago used to cost millions of dollars. You know, that's really kind of hard to put into, you know, another interpretation or another way of saying it. I look at it as the money because, I mean, $1 back in, you know, 100 some years ago used to be able to buy an ounce of gold, and now $1 is like 1,600, you know, you need $1,600 for an ounce of gold. That's one way of looking at it. Basically, so cars right now are $30,000 brand new. Imagine when they become $300 brand new. Now that is a democratization. Who doesn't have a car? I think we have cars for pets. So that's democratization. Anything else I want to add to this? Like I said, this is something I'm very passionate about. I got accepted into Singularity University. I have many moonshot ideas. I recommend the book Abundance by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler, as well as checking out the Flow Genome Project. These things are awesome, and there's a lot of companies trying to do breakthrough work right now. This is why it's such an awesome time to be to be an exponential entrepreneur. So tomorrow, I'm actually going to I'm going on a camping trip today in a couple of hours for a bachelor party. My sister's getting married, and I'm going with the groom. We're going for a bachelor party. We're going to be camping in the woods on a lake. And tomorrow I was going to shoot the video on sales funnel recap and go over some more things and recommend some tools. And then I was going to also do the next day campaign planning, but I'm actually going to save those for when I get out of the woods. So tomorrow I'm just going to wing it. I'm bringing a good book with me that I haven't read. I've been neglecting it. I know it's an awesome book and it's perfect timing for me to read it. It is Seth Godin's Purple Cow. So maybe tomorrow will be something on that from I learned from there, or just something else I find very interesting that I want to share that will be very useful. It might be hard to top Seth Godin's Purple Cow, but we'll see tomorrow. You guys enjoy your day. Have a good weekend. See you later.